Well, with more on this story, we bring in Joe Loomis. He is a CyberSponse CEO. He is with us from Phoenix. His company provides cybersecurity to businesses. Our own Jolene Kent with us now with details of the threat and what comes next. So, Jolene, I understand, Gmail could be exposed, Facebook could be exposed. What kinds of personal information can be transmitted without our knowledge?
Well, it's all the stuff that's saved in the personal and the server's memory online. So we're talking about credit card numbers, passwords, secret keys. And now what's important about a secret key is that's used to unscramble information, to encrypt your personal information, say your social security number. And that secret key can actually impersonate you on a different server or impersonate your and verify your identity, essentially. So that's what's at stake here.
Yeah, because once somebody has your social security number, honestly, it's almost hopeless, right? It's
a really tough situation, and I think the Canadians are actually very on top of it. This morning, they've been announcing their version of the IRS coming forward and saying we're going to shut down the IRS, or their version of the IRS e-filing system for both businesses and individuals. They're trying to get ahead of it. They say no information has been compromised just yet, but they are trying to take preventative measures to eliminate any risk in the situation.
Okay, so Joe, we mentioned your clients are companies. What can they do? What should they do?
I think the first step is how these companies respond to certain types of vulnerability intelligence that they're obtaining. I would say that the market right now is very aware of what the situation is, and now most consumers need to be in communication with their service provider to understand when do they need to change their password. The response efforts that take place are really the key here. This is what your traditional zero-day attack is called, whereas you have a vulnerability that most people never really knew about, and then when they realize that it is a major issue, is how do you respond? And at CyberSponse, that's exactly what we're here to help companies do.
So what are you doing, Joe? What advice are you giving them?
The advice what I would go to is that most consumers need to go to their service providers, find out what the status of the vulnerability is for them. How does that affect them? Whether it's their email provider, their web hosting provider, and then go and make the precautionary measures. Change your passwords. Do your active intelligence and educate yourself to find out if your provider is actually vulnerable to this type of threat.
Okay, and Joe, we were talking about, we talked about it in the newsroom. Honestly, all my passwords are welcome123. Like, that's a joke, right? You're supposed to change them. You're supposed to make them longer. You're supposed to misspell things on purpose. There's a lot of things we can do, right, to protect ourselves.
There's a lot of things you can do. Yes, that's right. And so I think what the problem is here, though, is unfortunately the way that Heartbleed works is you actually are vulnerable to what the flaw is. And even if you do change all of your passwords, if that flaw has not been closed and resolved by the organization, the company, the Yahoo, the Google, the Microsoft, you're still vulnerable. So there's very limited things you can actually take control of in this situation. We've actually reached out to the IRS after what happened in Canada this morning, and we haven't heard back yet, but we're wondering now, is the U.S. tax system and all of the taxes being filed ahead of April 13th or 15th vulnerable in that situation as well?
All right, we will be focused on this going forward. Jolene Kent, thank you very much. And Joe Loomis joining us there, the CEO of CyberSponse. Well,